Think today's tech giants are playing by a different set of rules than the old school robber barons? Think again. 135 years after America passed its first federal antitrust law, we're still using the same rules to rein in the monopoly power. Only now the battleground isn't oil or steel, it's data. Whether it was John D. Rockefeller controlling his oil empire in the early 1900s or Google controlling the flow of data and information today, the courts have been clear. Markets work better when no single player can rig the system. Here's the history of America's monopoly game. After the Civil War, America entered the Gilded Age, an era of unfettered wealth and unchecked power. Industrial titans like J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie, and Rockefeller dominated steel, railroads, and oil. Rockefeller became the first billionaire in U.S. history. But as Mark Twain pointed out, beneath the glittering Gilded Age was unbound corruption. New money robber barons throttled competition, buying out rivals, rigging pricing, cutting shady deals. In 1890, Congress responded with the Sherman Antitrust Act.
The first federal antitrust law was the 1890 Sherman Act, and it was absolutely a response to the Industrial Revolution and a lot of the power that had concentrated.
The first major test of the law, Standard Oil. By 1904, it controlled 91% of U.S. oil production and 85% of U.S. oil sales. The Supreme Court ordered it broken into 34 companies, pieces that would later become Chevron, Exxon, and Mobil. That case became the blueprint for antitrust law. Fast forward to the 1980s, another monopoly and another landmark case. This time, it was AT&T. The company controlled 90% of the US telephone market and nearly the entire telecom pipeline, from local to long-distance lines. The Department of Justice argued it was abusing its power to shut out competition. The court agreed. In 1982, AT&T was forced to break up. This opened the door for lower prices, better service, and the foundation for the internet. Then came Microsoft. The DOJ accused Bill Gates' empire of using its Windows monopoly to unfairly tie Internet Explorer to its operating system, boxing out rival browsers. Microsoft dodged a breakup on appeal, but the case opened the door for new tech giants to rise in the early 2000s.
We wouldn't have a Google or a Facebook if there was not antitrust action against Microsoft a generation ago.
And rise they did. In just 2 decades, Google went from a garage startup in Silicon Valley to one of the most powerful and profitable companies in the world. That power, courts say, turned monopolistic. In a single year, Google was found liable of 2 monopolies, one in search, one in ad tech. In the search case, a federal judge ruled that Google held an illegal monopoly, thwarting innovation and suffocating competition while owning 90% of the market. The DOJ pointed to a $20 billion a year exclusive deal to make Google the default search engine on all iPhones and the Safari browser. They argued that's not competition, that's control. A federal judge agreed, ruling that Google not only stifled competition, but also jacked up ad prices while degrading its own search results. One Google ad executive described this tactic in an internal email as shaking the cushions. The federal judge in the case ruled that Google will now have to disclose any changes it makes to its ad auctions in search to increase transparency and prevent them from increasing prices in the dark. In September 2025, the judge's final ruling ordered Google to share search data with rivals. They're permitted to continue making agreements to make Google the default search browser as long as the deals are not exclusive. However, the tech giant wasn't forced to sell their Chrome browser or their Android mobile operating system. And then came the ad tech case. This started in 2008 when Google bought DoubleClick, largely to stop Microsoft from buying it. An internal email revealed Google thought this would make Microsoft a major competitive threat. From there, Google owned the whole digital ad pipeline, buy side, sell side, and the exchange in between, with its dominant publisher ad server, ad exchange, and network of advertising demand. A federal judge compared it to Goldman Sachs or Citibank owning the New York Stock Exchange. A former News Corp exec put it bluntly, it felt like they were holding us hostage. Now comes the remedies phase of the trial. The DOJ is calling for Google to spin off its ad exchange, AdX, and at least a partial spin-off of its publisher ad server, formerly known as DoubleClick for Publishers, now called Google Ad Manager. While Google plans to appeal, many believe this is the biggest shot yet at structural reform in digital advertising.
I think it's a realistic possibility that we're going to have our AT&T moment for big tech and antitrust.
And Google won't be the last. Meta just went through an antitrust trial over buying Instagram and WhatsApp. Plus, it faces scrutiny over its pay or consent ad model in Europe. Amazon is accused of self-dealing in the marketplace. And Apple is fighting claims that it strangles app competition through its App Store policies. When a company maintains an illegal monopoly, it can often raise prices, reduce choice, and harm competition to benefit itself. At stake isn't just who controls ad pricing, it's who gets to build the future. Can new companies rise, or will they be bought, buried, or blocked? Antitrust law once broke oil trusts. It cracked telecom giants. Now it's being tested against software empires. The question is, can that 19th century law still work in a world of data, algorithms, and AI? The law may be old, but the stakes are brand new.